Hana would be the worst enemy to any government and their many secrets. Culprit for this one featured, I think Hana doing one of them their tactic trends that you kids are all into these days. But yeah, the episode proper then basically followed up on the last episode at the witch nursery, though with a few less mad cows. And the attendants rather rudely woke up the kids who are like me every Sunday morning. This is what happens when you feed those kids some of that hard formula. We also got to see some of the major problem children of this nursery in Teki and Tekipaki, the babies that were taken in by the Motas. Case in point, the former tried to get out brushing his teeth by brushing with a dry brush, which feels kind of pointless. I mean, you're kind of already halfway there, so why even try to sneak out of it? Okay, you kind of get a pass for bukaking Oyaji. However, they were stopped by Hana, who was then thanked by Oyaji, which was probably the biggest mistake he did, as you don't want to encourage these kids. Later, we got some more follow-up from the last episode when, surprise surprise, feeding a kid a carrot cake wasn't really going to sell them on the actual veggie and more on just the pastry. I actually kind of liked this development, as it showed that the Ojamajo's attempts weren't as well thought out as they believed. If you want a kid to stop being a picky eater, you have to give them something a little closer to the actual food rather than a dessert that only has small slivers of it. Like, come on, Doremi, what do you have to say for yourself?
せっかくステーキ食べてる夢見てたのに。続き見よう。
Okay, compelling argument. Anyway, in an actually amiable moment for the guy, Oyaji tried to convince Hana to eat her carrots by turning into his toad form that we haven't seen in a while. However, she then decided to weaponize her veggies. An Acme product that actually works decently. And I guess the coyote was just ordering from the wrong suppliers. But yeah, this is the kind of wacky Looney Tunes slapstick that I do like to see, as it does make sense for the character, in this case the always chaotic evil baby, and to characters who at least kind of deserved it. I mean, Oyaji is an obvious target, and the attendants do deserve a little payback for waking up the kids like that. Later, we got to see the cephalopod family as they dropped off their freak of nature, their freak of nature. Not helping matters was this actual tentacle monster being way too clingy to his daughter, mostly through his animation, not his actual performance, because again, this VA just cannot act to save his life. Still, he tried to remain close to his kid by saying that they could just set up their shop right outside the nursery.
ここはほとんど人通りがないから商売にならないでしょ?
Plus, you know, you kind of need permission in order to do business that close to a private property. Anyway, in an actual enjoyable callback, Majou Heart made her first major appearance since the beginning of the season. She was there to check in on her former testes, though mostly Hana because main character influence and all that. Back with said kids, the techies were actually being kind of creative with their art, but like most schools, creativity needs to be snuffed out. Thus, if anything, it was kind of justified that they ended up lashing out at the other kids. I mean, not to say that they deserve to have their pictures ruined, but they really should have been allowed some retribution. Eventually, though, their antics were stopped by Hana, who unsurprisingly revealed that she was stronger than a couple of toddler witches, which, yeah, compared to everything else in this show, she had accomplished a lot more than those small potatoes. And speaking of foods, lunch rolled around and hamburger steak was on the menu. Of course, not knowing the difference between cheap ground up beef and an expensive slab of meat, Hana assumed that it was the same kind of steak that Doremi always tried to get, rather than a common but tasty dish that she's probably had a ton of times. But yeah, she ate almost everything on her plate, which by the looks of it included broccoli and potatoes, so yeah, she already had most of her nutrients in, and carrots weren't essential. However, neither was stealing other kids' meats. Yeah, in this case, this is just kind of needlessly mean-spirited. I mean, just having her imitate her mom wasn't going to justify anything. Later, during nap time, Hana was able to sleep, so she had the attendant sing her a lullaby, but I guess it wasn't to her taste. This is what happens when you raise those kids on stuff like Frozen and that stupid shark show. Also, how exactly would a witch know about a Japanese bone festival? Fortunately, and again, in a good moment for the dude, Oyaji managed to play a nice tune on the piano to put her to sleep. And from there, we Then just moved on to the next scene during the kids' swim class. Yeah, no real transition or anything, just a bit of a sloppy and then to get us there. Anyway, while the cephalopod unsurprisingly turned out to be a naturally good swimmer, Hana revealed that she was also skilled. This resulted in the techies pulling another prank by unplugging the pool and almost recreating that one scene from Final Destination 3D, which actually might have been based off of a very real-life tragedy, which, yeah, that's just another reason why that film was considered to be the worst in its franchise, but I digress. Hana, of course, managed to save the day by pretty much becoming a Jesus baby at this point, though surprisingly, Oyaji also helped out, so good on him. Ranch even managed to work a few more miracles when the instant got the other kids to cry for their moms. And she might have screwed over a witch trainee to take care of exams. Oops. But yeah, everyone, including Hana herself, were briefly reunited with their mothers. Obviously, this went against their whole separation law that had been put in place to let the witch children develop properly, but as Oyashi pointed out, it probably didn't hurt to bend the rules a little, especially when they do need some healthy parental interactions. Besides, what's the worst that could happen from this? You know, aside from the end of the world. But yeah, out of nowhere, the previous queen of the witch world returned after being the final boss of the previous season, just because she caught a whiff of all the maternal love going on, along with another unusual occurrence. When is it not smiling? Actually, she picked up on how Hana managed to summon Doremi from across the dimensions and figured that she needed to be nerfed. And while at first it seemed like she didn't actually do much, knowing this bitter old hag, it was clear that she had inflicted some sort of curse onto this toddler witch. With that, the episode ended with the mothers playing some wholesome little games with their kids, even though something bad was clearly approaching. This was an okay episode, though it did become pretty disjointed by the end. Yeah, it was really that third act that kind of threw me off, as it really just felt like things were just happening for the sake of the plot. Some of the antics at the witch nursery were certainly fun, but then the previous queen came in and then it's just like, what? As much as I do appreciate a good shaking up of the status quo, I do think it does require a little build up to it, which unfortunately this episode didn't quite live up to. I mean, a Hana episode on its own is fine, especially when they amp up some of the wackier and creative elements with a baby that essentially has the power of God and anime on her side. And as much as I do bash him, it actually is good to see Oyaji be a character who can care for kids and not just an Oppu stan all the time. Stuff like that, as well as little callbacks to the previous season like Majo Heart, were fun. That said, bringing back the final boss of that same season with no real foreshadowing just doesn't quite work for me. It's not only a tonal whiplash, but it just feels more confusing than anything else, like what was she even doing up until now? I don't know, it just feels like they didn't know how to reintroduce her and just threw her into a random Hana episode. Again, overall, this is fine enough as just a Hana episode, if a little disjointed, but throw that last minute twist in and it just becomes head scratching. One thing's for sure, if this lady has social media account, she'd probably crash out on it almost every other day. Thanks for watching, and if you don't want to have to deal with some angry Karen witches, well, maybe you should at least watch some of our other videos on this channel. We've got something new coming out almost every day, so chances are decent that they'll entertain at least someone. Look forward to whatever comes next, and until then though, for now my friends, and excuse me. Yeah, I wish I had magical powers when I have to take any of these babysitting jobs. Here I come.